Hello, I'm Joe. Welcome to our own vegetables, fruit and herbs. Hello and welcome back to Joe's Allotment. As always, thanks to Di behind the camera. I'd like to thank everyone who subscribed recently and hope you keep watching and enjoy our videos. And I'd also like to say to people that haven't subscribed yet, what our aim is now is to do a weekly video on jobs for that week and try and do that throughout a whole yearly cycle. So hopefully that'd be some advice and tips for anyone who's got an allotment or kitchen garden on what to do for that week. So if you want to subscribe to our channel and follow our weekly tips, I think there's a button down here somewhere in the corner. Was it that side? Not sure, one side or the other. Anyway, you'll find it. So we're in the week 2 of May now. So what we'll do is we start on the jobs for week 2 of May. And the first one I'm going to do is earth up the potatoes, which basically means drawing up some soil around the potatoes when they get to about sort of 8 to 9 inches high. And the purpose of that is simply to stop any potatoes that are developing near the surface going green, which people say are poisonous. I'm not sure if they are, but if you draw the soil up above them, it keeps them all nice and compacted and stops any potatoes going green that are near the surface of the plant. So we'll do that first. So what I'll do is I'll loosen up the soil on both sides, and then I'll get the rake out and draw the soil up around the plant. Okay, so that's the first job done. So it's basically drawing the soil around them, and you can do that in stages really. So when they grow a bit more, I'll draw some more soil around them later. Loosen the soil a little bit. Put the poles in. So just tying in the last bean pole. So what we do every autumn is we dig a trench in this area and we fill it with compost and comfrey leaves, leaf mulch, everything we've got, guinea pig manure, and then we leave it all winter, and then we fill it in as we've done today and put the poles back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant out the first of the climbing beans, which we've got here. These are Blue Lake. So I'll plant these ones in first today, and then we'll start planting successively in the next few weeks. We just keep planting until we get a continuous crop all the way through a longer period, rather than plant them all in one go and you get all the beans in one go. So if we try and do it successively, we get a slower bean supply. Got lovely roots come through there. We have to give this a good watering as well because it's so dry, unbelievably dry. So that's the first 15 in, and you know, depending on what part of the country you live in, I mean we're in the southeast here, so our last frost date has now passed, but if you're in other parts of the country, up north or in Scotland, then you might want to check your last frost date before you plant out anything tender like beans. I'll put a link at the bottom actually so you can check your last frost date if you want to. That's those in. We'll give those a good watering now. So the next job for week 2 of May is I'm going to plant out these Canadian Wonder French beans, which I sowed on the 8th of April. So I'll just prepare the bed here. Smooth it out a bit. The roots have gone right to the bottom of the pot already. So I'll plant these next to the broad beans about 6 to 8 inches apart. And we'll give these a good thorough watering as well. As I say, these are Canadian Wonder French beans. That's the last one in, so we'll give those a thorough watering next. So the next job for week 2 of May, I've got some seedlings here that are ready for planting out. We've got some cold rabbi here, which I planted on the 8th of April, and some spring onions, red spring onions, and some red Ampedosa onions as well. So I've got purple spring onions, red Ampedosa onions. What I'll do is I'll put them in this section here, and that'll fill up this plot here. So what I'll do is I just put the whole toilet roll into the soil, and that'll hopefully get away quite well. That's one of that going in. They're 6 to 8 inches apart, and hopefully the toilet roll will just rot away underneath, and they'll carry on developing and grow. Don't need too many of these, but I plant them successionally because I'm the only one who likes eating them, so no point in planting too many. But I love the taste of them, so I'll give those a good water in a minute. And the spring onions, I'll just leave them in their bunches, and I'll get a whole bunch of spring onions all in one go. Give a good firming in, give a good watering. There's one there I can eat. Well, these are onions, red Ampedosa onions. What I'll do is I'll separate them into little clumps, I think. 2 or 3 I'll leave together. So the next job for week 2 of May, I've prepared the bed here for our first sowings of main crop carrots. I'm using a variety called Early Nonce. So I've pre-watered the rows as well, and I'll try and sow them as thinly as possible, and that avoids lots of pricking out, lots of pulling out of carrots. Gives them a bit more space to grow individual carrots. So I'll try and sow them as thinly as possible. I'll just cover these thinly. I'll give them a little sprinkle on top as well. So these should germinate in sort of 7 to 10 days, hopefully. So next job for the second week of May is I'm going to plant in this bed the Brussels and the mammoth red cabbages. I think these were the Brussels were sown on the 8th of March and the red cabbages were sown on the 14th of March. So I'll put them into this bed here and like a nice firm soil, and what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of lime in the bottom of each hole as well and cover them up with netting. So that's the next job to do. You can see the roots have filled up the whole pot. So what I'll do is I'll plant them a little bit deeper as well. Doesn't matter if they go past the first leaf. And I've already limed the holes. Make sure we give them a good firming in as well. Brassicas like to be well firmed into the ground. That's it. That's the Brussels and the red cabbages in. We'll give those a good watering next, and then we'll cover it with netting. Okay, so that's the jobs down on the allotment for week 2 of May now completed. Still got some seed sowing to do, so we'll go home and do that at home. See you shortly. So I've pre-prepared all the modules for the seeds for this week, so week 2 of May. So what I've got here is winter cauliflower all year round. I'll just do a little sprinkle of these, not too many, we don't need lots and lots. So 6 to 7 plants or 6 to 8 plants should be enough of those. We've got chard and spinach beet. They take 12 to 20 days to germinate. They should be ready in about 15 weeks. So I'll just sort of get those a good spread out. Should be enough of those. And some perpetual spinach. Same again with those. Oops. Same again with those. Spread those out. So I'll cover all these over. Half-inch covering for the perpetual spinach and the chard, and a quarter, just as light covering for the cauliflower seeds. Firm these down, and these can go into the greenhouse to germinate. That's those done. It's a Romanesco endive, very tiny seed. Just 4 little modules of those, I think. Don't need too many. Lovely in a salad. What should do with those? So just a light covering on the endive. These take about 3 to 7 days to germinate, and they should be able to start cropping those in about 15 weeks. So beetroot is a variety called Bolt Hardy, so they take about 7 to 10 days to germinate, and they should be ready in about 15 weeks. So what we'll do is we'll plant them successionally, which means every few weeks we'll plant some, which means we'll get a crop for a longer period rather than the whole lot in one go. So it's nice to have beetroot over a long period during the summer months. They go lovely in salads. So there should be quite a lot there. There should be enough for those. We'll give those a covering and we firm those down. Already been pre-watered. All the modules have been pre-watered already this afternoon, so they're nice and soaked. All Rabbi Delicacy Purple into the toilet rolls. As you saw, we planted some out today, so this will be the next batch to come through. And we'll thin those out to 1 or 2. do just a thin covering. They take 10 to 12 days to germinate, and they're ready in about 15 weeks. So, same as the beetroot, we successionally plant them. As I'm the only one in the household that eats them, 4 was plenty. So, I'm going to do 3 modules of coriander and 3 modules of parsley. Got 2 types of parsley. We've got an Italian giant flat leaf, and then we've got a curly variety called Moose Kraus 2, and the coriander is just ordinary coriander. So I'll put these in and cover them very thinly and firm those down next. So that's one curly one, and 2 flat leaf parsleys. Just very thinly cover these. Coriander a little bit more because they're a much larger seed, as you can see. And these take about 14 to 21 days to germinate, very slow at germinating. But these can all go into the greenhouse. That's that lot done. So 2 varieties of summer spinach is what I'm doing. One's the Matador and one's a giant winter, and they take about 15 to 21 days to germinate. They're very slow at germinating. And these are proper spinaches as opposed to the chard and perpetual, which are part of the beet family. Also got the chickpeas. I'm going to plant these in the garden actually because I want to keep an eye on them. These are my sort of experimental crop this year, so I'll plant them in the garden so I can keep an eye on them, and I'll probably do that this week. I've also got some pricking out and planting on to do. We've got the cow that's coming through, that needs to be pricked out and planted on, and the coal rabbi, and I've got a few more tomatoes to do as well. And this is the Matador. Spread these out. So these can go in this greenhouse as well, and I will plant them straight out when they grow, or if I need to I'll prick them on. The final thing is peas in guttering, which I can then push into the soil when they've germinated. I'll show you the ones I've done already in a moment. They're in the garden. What I'll do is I'll move all these into the greenhouse. I'm actually going to put a few basil plants into the greenhouse. These are the ones that were left over when I transplanted and pricked out the others. So I'm going to put a few of them into the greenhouse now. Just a quick show of the peas I planted earlier. They're planted in gutters as well, so they're in the garden here at home with the lettuces. I've had to cover over the lettuces with some wire because we had a fox come along and start digging holes a few nights ago, so cover them over and put some prickly cuttings as well there. I think I'm just going to leave them in clumps, and we'll get some sort of crop out of it. I'll tie them to these sticks tomorrow. Get those in there and give them a good watering tonight, and they should be okay. I've got 2 types of basil here. One's the cinnamon basil and one's the sweet basil. I'll just chuck them in here. We can crop them as we need them as well. That's it. So that's all the jobs for week 2 of May. Got a few more things to do. As you've seen, I've got to do some more pricking out, and I've got to plant the chickpeas. But that's a roundup of the jobs for week 2 of May. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give us a like, leave us some comments or suggestions, and if you want to see what week 3's got in store for you, subscribe below. Thank you very much for watching. Happy gardening.